Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here talking about net zero policies, green policies of the federal government and elsewhere. We're here with Dr. Ross McKitrick. He is a professor of economics at University of Guelph. Professor, thanks again for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Again, unpacking a little bit about some of the impacts of this net zero pledge. What about our agriculture sector? What about our mining sector? How are these impacted?
Yeah, I think every sector is going to be asking this same question because they're all fuel users. I saw a comment today from one farmer who said he doesn't think Elon Musk is going to be making a combine harvester anytime soon. So he has no choice. He has to use the fuels. And if we want the grain, if we want the food, we're going to be using fuels for it. I think an important point here, and it kind of goes back to your earlier one about why do this. This is not a mainstream response to the climate issue. This is an extreme response. There are some pollutants that we have almost eliminated. Sulfur dioxide, for instance, is almost all gone from our fuel supply and our emissions, but the technology was there to do that. And the cost-benefit analysis indicated that that was appropriate. In this case, the harm from carbon dioxide emissions does not justify pushing a country like Canada to net zero, especially given the trade competitiveness problems and the energy-intensive nature of our economy. And so I just think even if we could technically do it, it is not a good policy direction for us to embrace.
We've had, as guests on this program, representatives of the mining sector as another example I cited, and certainly they are doing as much as they possibly can to be a greener sector in terms of reducing their carbon footprint, but I don't think any of them are talking about net zero anytime soon. Is that correct?
Not for carbon dioxide, no. Whether it's the fuels they themselves use or indirectly from transportation or the inputs that they use, we're just not there. The technology doesn't really exist. And the mining sector is an example, though, of as with manufacturing, as with many other sectors in the Canadian economy, they have reduced all their other forms of emissions. Their standard air pollution emissions are down considerably, and our urban air quality has improved dramatically over the past 50 years. So we've made a lot of improvements on the quality of our environment. To then look at carbon dioxide and say, well, none of that counts. Now we have to just eliminate carbon dioxide. I think, first of all, it doesn't give us credit for what we've actually done to improve the environment, but also it really is getting ahead of the game in terms of what's technically and economically realistic here.
Your sense of another sector, which of course is the green tech sector. Do you have any thoughts on how Canada is faring with renewables and some of the technology around that?
A lot of jurisdictions around the world embraced renewable energy, wind and solar, hoping that they would then become the big exporters that would supply everybody else. And it certainly didn't work out that way for Ontario. It didn't work out that way for Europe either. Most of us end up importing those components from China. And that it didn't create jobs in the way that it was projected to. The province of Ontario promised there would be 50,000 new green jobs as a result of the Green Energy Act. What's typically more the pattern, though, is the electricity price increases kill at least that many jobs in other sectors. So we don't end up with new net gains in employment from embracing green energy because it is a source of increased cost for everyone else in the economy.
In this sense, I'd love to get your sense of any alternatives to this, because we've talked a lot about how the faults, I suppose, in this proposal of the Trudeau government. Are there any good alternatives out there?
Well, I think one alternative, first of all, is to broaden the discussion a bit to environmental quality generally, and then Canada actually looks really good. We can stand with anyone else with our record as far as reducing air pollution and improving water quality and land management. As far as carbon dioxide specifically, for a long time, for Canada, the United States, and Europe, for decades, we've been getting better every year, about 1% better every year in our emissions intensity of output. So
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought again, Professor. Sorry to do this. We are going to break away for a brief commercial break.